where the dead collect toys. One man still reviews mutants after midnight. Boba dead!
Monsters under black light, white zombie blasting from the stereo. Welcome to the Boba Dead Show. Boba Dead Show, where the mutants rise and the brain juice flows. Boba Dead Show, from the BS tomb to the late night glow. Ghost kaiju, creeps and toys, undead girls and zombie boys. From the lower nights to the crypt below. Welcome to the Boba Dead Show. Got Return of the Living Dead, punk rock screams, reanimator science and toxic waste dreams. Pet cemetery cat scratching at the door, ash chainsaw dancing on the cabin floor. Zombie T-Rex appliances in the mist, skeleton ninjas doing karate kicks. From EC Comics rock to Italian dread, every episode's broadcast from the dead.
10 more action figures.
Monster Growl! Right! And vintage VHS tapes. Boba Dead Show, glowing green underneath the moonlight glow. Boba Dead Show, where the dead love toys and the weird things grow. Marvel zombies, horror flicks, monster mask and tempting kicks. If you hear this song, you're already dead. Welcome to the Boba Dead Show. Welcome to the Boba Dead Show. Welcome to the Boba Dead Show.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Brains. Brains.
We've gone all small for some reason. It's annoying. We're not supposed to be all small like this, right? It's doing something weird. There we go. That's a little better.
There we go.
That'll
Front
do.
and center.
So, Mark, we're going to
Everybody is doing well. We're back. We're back, baby. We are so back.
We're going to sink our teeth into a meaty topic. Do you have an insatiable hunger, Mark, for brain juices and human flesh?
Insatiable. Intolerable. I'm so goddamn hungry, man. I just want to pluck out your eyes and eat them.
Juicy. But
I
yeah,
mean
not
that
just,
though in a lovable way, though, not any type of menacing flash.
not just any old zombies. We're talking about the Marvel zombies.
Yeah, the super zombies. More than undead. They are super undead.
Yeah, like they did some fun comics back in the early 2000s by Robert Kirkman, same guy who did the Walking Dead comic.
Yeah, they are equally dark and funny. A dark
Yeah.
comedy, you could possibly call that original run of comics by Kirkman. Look, I'm just going to start straight off the bat by saying I absolutely loved the Marvel Zombies series at the time when I read it. I was just in the right spot to get the early editions as they were coming out, and their kind of collected volumes on hardback. A friend of mine, he had actually been trying to get me to give the Ultimate Marvel Universe a chance for ages. He's like, "Oh man, you know, it's really good and the art's great." And I was like, "Oh yeah, look, I'm sure it is fine, but you know, it's new Marvel, and I'm just
Yeah,
into what I like, and I don't need any of these new dimensions or new arts or anything like that. I'm just trying to keep things simple." And for the most part, I stayed away from the Ultimate Marvel Universe until he informed me about a story that was happening in Ultimate Fantastic Four that involved zombie versions of Marvel superheroes. Then all of a sudden I got very interested, at least in that
yeah,
aspect of the Ultimate continuity. So I was curious to know what was going on, and needless to say, I was not disappointed.
yeah. I read some of the Ultimate comics like years later, and like X-Men was okay, the Ultimates was okay. Fantastic Four book was probably the least of the books as far as the ongoing. But yeah, towards the later part of the run, they had the alternate universe. Well, Reed goes into some other alternate universe and finds Marvel zombies, and that was the idea that Kirkman picked up on later on and did these mini series to make, you know, this whole Earth where the zombies are taken over, but unlike your traditional Walking Dead, who are just like brainless idiots, they've still got their intelligence, and well, they've still got their superpowers as well, except they're just dead. And strangely, they're not undead, which I only learned when I was rereading it this week. They're dead but not undead, because it's technically a space virus, which actually was Night of the Living Dead as well, if you want to be technical. That came from space. But it's distinctly different than your classic Romero zombies. Like, they made that distinction for whatever reason. So if you
Yes,
destroy the brain, they don't die. That's the main thing that doesn't.
yeah, these zombies are very difficult to kill.
Yeah. It's
Compared
like
to
basically
other
every piece
examples.
of cell or blood and nervous system is infected, and you would have to disintegrate the entire body basically to get rid of them.
Yes. And you know, I have to say, like the initial setup with how they're introduced is actually quite good. So in Ultimate Fantastic Four, their version of Reed Richards um, believes he is in communication with a Reed Richards from another dimension who's slightly older than him, but essentially is the same person, just an alternate reality version of himself. And he has constructed this device that allows him to communicate with people from different dimensions and different times. And this other version of Reed Richards, who he's communicating with, he's very keen for him to come visit him in his own dimension. So he actually very helpfully sends the ultimate version of Reed Richards. He sends him the instructions on how to build a device that will allow him to travel to different dimensions and then visit him in his own dimension. And of course, the ultimate Reed Richards is really keen to do this. He thinks it's amazing that there's a
Yeah.
multiverse out there and that there's a different almost identical version of him that he's going to get to go and meet. And of course, he'll probably also be a great scientific mind. I mean, he's already shown him how to build this interdimensional traveling device, so he's really keen to go meet him. So he steps forward and he gets onto the machine and he's transported to the coordinates that the other Reed Richards gives him. And when he steps out of the field on the other side, he realizes that the Baxter building that he's been transported to is completely run down, falling apart, disheveled. There's nobody around. There's skeletons of people lying in the corridors. He runs downstairs, runs out onto the main street, only to see all of New York City completely in ruins, bodies everywhere, and standing before him is himself, except himself is actually a decrepit, decaying zombie, and
Yeah.
he's also with other versions of the Fantastic Four who are also zombies. So he's standing before a zombie Fantastic Four team, who quickly reveal to him that they've actually lured him here. They've tricked him. All they wanted was to bring an unsuspecting victim into their universe so they can feed on him, and then also use the dimension kind of hopping gateway device to go back to the ultimate universe and start consuming and feeding on that dimension as well. So it's quite a clever little setup to kind of get things kicked off and to introduce the zombies into the story.
Yeah, it's a good setup, and depending on which, like, there's Marvel Zombies, several stories and sequels, and the continuity kind of plays fast and loose. It kind of changes book to book, but in some versions of it also, Reed sees the virus as like this ultimate form of life and immortality, and infects himself on purpose.
Yes, he views it as essentially, instead of looking at it as a virus, he's looking
the
at
X-Men,
it more
like the evolution of mutants. He sees these zombies as the next evolution of humanity.
Yeah, the next evolution of essentially life, because it's such an all-consuming, whatever. Like I'll keep referring it to a virus, but like he sees it as it's essentially rewriting evolution, and it's the future of all living things, and he almost takes a religious kind of fundamentalist view of it, because he's not just wanting to travel to other dimensions to eat and consume. He also wants to spread the gospel of the hunger, as he calls it. He wants this this plague to spread across not just their universe, but all multiverses.
Yeah, it's demented. Like, but you think if you get turned into a zombie, you'd be a bit annoyed if you get injured and your body doesn't heal anymore. If you're like, well, my leg's falling off and I'm missing a hand.
It's a funny thing how the zombies are in this. I suppose it's a little bit like Return of the Living Dead, where it is
like that.
The zombies, they can talk and they can reason and whatnot. It leads to some situations that are both equally hilarious and terrifying at the same time. Like it's pretty disturbing, the idea of Spider-Man eating Mary Jane and eating Aunt May. But it's also kind of hilarious reading his monologues later on as he's despairing about what he's done, and he's being so dramatic about it all, and it's such dark material, but it's so funny as well, because the way it's written, it's just you can't help but kind of laugh at many of the moments.
That's why he won't take his mask off anymore, because he won't look himself in the in the face, because he's so horrified at what he's done.
And I believe
like, the hunger takes them like a drug addict, where they can't stop themselves when they just like keep eating everyone and everything.
Yeah, it's totally like it's uncontrollable hunger until you actually do feed, and after you've fed, you will have some moments of clarity while the hunger leaves you. Because we'll find with characters like Spider-Man, and even say somebody like the Incredible Hulk, when he's all enraged and hungry, he's going to be the Hulk, but after he feeds, he morphs back into Bruce Banner, because he's like calmed down, he's able to reason again. And we'll see how some of the heroes will be feeling maybe more guilty than others when they're in their more salient states where they're able to reason, whereas other heroes, especially like Giant Man and Iron Man, they're more concerned with developing plans and plots that will increase their food supply. Like, they're not sitting around wallowing, feeling guilty. They're actually, actively trying to come up with ways to get more food. And Giant Man in particular has a very dark secret, which he's keeping from the rest of the zombies. In this, he has actually captured and disabled the Black Panther, and he's keeping him prisoner.
He captured him before he was a zombie.
Yes. And so Black Panther is uninfected and still alive, but what Giant Man is doing is he's sawing off bits of his limbs and eating them and using it to kind of keep himself
and keeping him sterilized so that his meat doesn't rot.
Yeah, it's really, really dark stuff, you know, really, really dark. And yeah, there's just that kind of pendulum with Marvel Zombies where it will swing from, you know, sometimes very hilarious to sometimes really gruesome and horrific. But it really works. It really works. Love Colonel America here. Look
Yeah.
at what that punk did to me. If we catch him, when we catch him, I get double rations. I
It's
think
because
that's
Magneto
after
used the metal
yes,
on his
the
own
shield.
shield to decapitate himself, but only got half his head.
Yeah, so the when the ultimate version of Reed Richards, when he's first encounters the zombie Fantastic Four, who are later going to be dubbed the Frightful Four, um, they try to capture him immediately, but he manages to escape and avoid them. But they do track him down, and we think he's going to get got. But thankfully for him, Magneto shows up. He's one of the superhuman survivors that have actually been helping, you know, other survivors escape. And he saves Reed Richards and he brings them to this kind of abandoned subway that Magneto and a few human survivors are hiding out on. So Reed naturally, you know, starts quizzing him about what happened and how did all this, you know, come about with the zombies and whatnot. And at one point, he kind of asks him, you know, how long ago did all of this happen? And we find out that it's only been going on for like 2 or 3 days. Like
Yeah,
that's all it took for
it's like the whole
the
planet
initial
stuff.
infection. Yeah, the infection started and then pretty much spread across the globe in a matter of days. And it's explained later on in the subsequent volumes that essentially, you know, superhumans are mutants that possess super speed abilities. So say somebody like Quicksilver, he could get bitten and then literally zoom across the globe, infecting other people at such a rate that there's like no way you could possibly, you know, keep up with the spread of infection. So he pretty much, you know, him and other kind of super speed humans ran the globe essentially, feasting and devouring everybody. Even isolated spots like, you know, the Savage Land and places like that managed to get infected because we just can't keep up with the spread of the disease. Like at one point, you know, in the storyline, I think it might be in possibly volume two or one of the collected editions where we get some more backstory and it shows that Nick Fury attempted to gather Earth's heroes together that were still alive on board, you know, the Shield hovercraft, and they're trying to come up with a plan. And this is when that universe's version of Mr. Fantastic first starts constructing the dimensional gateway. But at this point, it's not known to the rest of the heroes, but we, the reader, kind of know that Mr. Fantastic in this universe is more than a little bit mad. As we mentioned, he had this whole bizarre kind of, you know, thought process where it's not so much an infection, it's like evolution. He's also kind of been sent over the edge by the fact this a zombified She-Hulk actually killed his kids, which has kind of driven him a little bit towards the brink of insanity. But Reed Richards, he's some boy because he corrals the Fantastic Four into his lab, and you know they're asking him, you know, oh, what's going on? Can there be a cure? You know, all the usual questions you'll ask while he's examining the specimens. And Reed's like, look, this is pretty much the next phase of human evolution, and when you entered this room, you may have all felt like a brief sting. That was me actually like infecting you with micro needles. So you've already been infected and you're about to turn like any minute. So yeah,
He's
he
such a
infects the
bastard.
whole crew. Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad what he does. But of course, he did it in a very clever way because he's Reed Richards and he came up with a great way to actually spread the infection among his teammates. Love these covers. Some beautiful
Yeah, it's
covers
fun
here.
throughout the series. They do like there aren't events that happen necessarily in the story, but they do all famous, iconic Marvel covers redone as the zombies, like the Wolverine where he's fighting Hulk with the reflection of Hulk and the blades. Not one of the later ones was the Spider-Man wedding of Mary Jane and Spider-Man, and they're all bits of them are all missing because chunks of the gongs have been eaten. And
Yeah, they come up with some very clever tributes to those classic covers when they do their own zombie versions of them. There is
and
really a lot of time and attention early on in the series given to doing things like that. I think they did a great job with a lot of the artwork here.
You can't really see on the Amazing Fantasy one, but instead of swinging on a web, he's either swinging on bits of intestine or his tendons coming out of his arm.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful, beautiful artwork. And yeah, as I was kind of mentioning at the beginning, I was lucky enough to pick up a lot of these as they were kind of being released in their hardcover,
Cool.
editions. Got up as far as volume 3, but I also got, it was like this collected edition called Dead Days,
Yeah.
which featured, I think it's like the first volume of the Marvel Zombies story, but also the Ultimate Fantastic Four story that actually, like, it's all printed in full in the collected volume to kind of give you like the whole picture.
Yeah, I think that has got
And
Marvel Zombies 1, 2, the Ultimate Fantastic Four, and then the Dead Days was like a one shot that kind of like ties bits of stuff together, plus the cool
That's
cover
right.
galleries.
Yes, yeah, and that's one thing about those collected editions and the hardcovers. You get a nice chunk of extras at the end of each volume, where you can admire the variant covers and kind of early sketch works they did. Not totally unrelated, but a little bit off topic. Diamond Select, when they were doing their Marvel figures, they actually did zombified versions of a few characters. I was
Yeah, I remember the Captain
lucky
America
enough
one.
to I missed the Captain America one, unfortunately, which is the most expensive one to try and pick up on the secondary market. I did manage to get Sabretooth and a zombie Magneto as well, which are both pretty cool looking figures.
They did Hasbro did some that tied into the animated thing, which I still haven't watched. And they're okay, but because they're animation style, they don't look gruesome at all. So, whereas the Diamond ones look like the comic, they have like the bloody gruesome details in it.
Yeah, there was a brief period when that Disney Marvel acquisition happened where they almost didn't want anything to do with Marvel Zombies, because I remember
Yeah.
at the time that's why the those diamond figures disappeared very quickly. They had plans to make more of them, and that was just scrapped. Disney weren't overly keen until what always happens with Disney is when they realize money is to be made, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
their morals just go out the window. But one thing I will say, and I don't want to dunk on it too much, because like I thought it was okay, that Marvel Zombies animation, like it was fine, but really it is not a patch on these comics that we're speaking about today. Like it's nowhere near as clever, as well written. Like the animation looks nice and the voice acting is fine, but it's just it's probably not going to be as offensive to people who enjoy the MCU, because it's kind of more that vibe, that MCU
Yeah,
vibe.
it's more
Everything's
like the
very light
movie.
and airy. Yeah, exactly. I'm still holding out hope though that someday, hey, look, even get Robert Kirkman or whoever you need to get on board, and let's just do a proper animated adaptation of the
Yeah, it'd have to be like
actual
R-rated, like the
comics.
Mortal Kombat animated
Yes.
specials. Those were
Yeah.
super gory.
It's great though seeing as sick as it sounds, it's kind of cool seeing all that gore in Marvel comics for the time.
Yeah.
You just
I like
weren't
in
used to,
the
like, they weren't used to it.
in the first series, they eat pretty much everyone on Earth, and the way they end up trying to get to another Earth is not through a dimensional portal like the Reed Richards thing, but the Galactus comes to Earth like he did in the original stories, but then they eat Galactus and absorb his powers. And one of my
That
favorite
is
bits.
hardcore.
And before that, well, actually, sorry, first they killed the Silver Surfer and absorbed his powers, so that's how they got some power cosmic. And I think it's like Giant Man and Tony or whatever build this big cannon to harness some of these powers that absorb from the Silver Surfer and amplify them. So they shoot a big cosmic powered cannon at Galactus to weaken him, and then they all start fighting him and eventually eat him. But I love when they fight the Silver Surfer. The Hulk manages to pull his head off, and he eats the Silver Surfer's head, and everyone else gets to eat the body. And then he's real mad because he's like the head was mostly skull and overall meat.
So funny. Like I said earlier, it's both funny and horrifying at the same time, because like you as the reader who is obviously familiar with like the core Fantastic Four universe, when you see the Surfer show up, you know what's coming, like you know what's about to happen. But yeah, the zombie's actually trying to capture him, because before he's actually captured and killed, the Silver Surfer does unbelievable damage to the zombie hordes. Like
Yeah,
there's a great moment where Wolverine attempts to give him the old adamantium claws to the chest, and as he strikes the Silver Surfer's silver skin, it more or less disintegrates his
yeah.
arm, all the flesh off his arm, so you're only left with like the claw hand. Like it's really cool moment. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
just
when
bone and claw left.
they manage to outnumber and overpower the Surfer eventually, and as you mentioned, when they consume him, they get some of his power cosmic. And yes, then the scientists among the team are able to construct a super cannon essentially, which allows like all the members of the team to combine their powers and fire shots at Galactus, which is enough to knock him and stagger him. And they're able to start like jumping on him and attacking him. And there's also a great moment where there's other surviving super beings who are mostly like villains from the various kind of series. Like Venom shows up, the Green Goblin, all sorts of these like Sabretooth is there, like tons of random
Yeah,
villains
all
from
the
like
classic
Spider-Man, X-Men.
villains, the ones that are still alive, they're just like, oh, just let them fight Galactus and they can wipe each other out and then all come in and get him at the end.
Yes, yeah, no, it's really cool. And then when Galactus is finally toppled, there is an argument between the cosmically powered heroes and those other undead heroes about who's going to get the feast and consume the body of Galactus. So then there's another big showdown between the two factions of Marvel zombies, and we get to see some like little 1v1 pairings. So like Wolverine kills Sabretooth, as is appropriate, I think.
Yeah.
We also get to see Spider-Man duking it out with Venom, but Venom can't beat him because Eddie Brock is actually dead. So the symbiote is dying because it needs a living being to actually draw its power from. So that's how Venom gets brought down. Like there's just lots of nice little sprinklings of how the disease affects
Yeah.
different
I
superpowers.
like
Like at one,
I'm not sure if it's in the second series or the sequel follow-up where it happens, but with Hulk, there's a bit where after post eating bits of Galactus, or there's a bit where he also get in a fight with Thanos and rips Thanos' head off.
yes,
But he eats another big person, and when he turns back to Banner, his stomach is all distended because he's eaten so much. It ends up just ripping and breaking his ribs and his guts like explode. He's still undead alive, but he eats it. He not only loses all his guts, but the other zombie is like, oh, more meat. They eat the meat.
yes, you can just eat it out of him.
And that's when they
Yeah, I
realize they're
believe
not digesting it, so that it just sits in there rotting, and they can pull it out and keep eating it and get their intelligence back for a bit of time and think about what to do next.
I believe it's like the rhino that Hulk eats, isn't it? He's like
Someone
he
big who,
eats
like, when
rhino.
he turns to Banner, he's not invulnerable Hulk anymore, and it ripped all his guts explode.
Yeah, because they discovered that they can keep re-eating and re-eating bits of meat. I think what happens though, because their bodies are so acidic, each time the meat passes through, there's less and less of it each time. So
Yeah,
they will still run out of food. But as you mentioned, like with Galactus, so when they consumed the Silver Surfer, they got obviously elements of his power. When they actually finally topple and kill Galactus, they get like his super galacti cosmic powers. Like they
yeah, that's
are,
how they leave the Earth and start raiding other planets.
yeah. And then there's a nice moment, where we
They
see,
basically become the replacement Galactus, except they're also
yes,
infecting planets. But then they eat everyone, so there's not really one left to infect.
yeah, because we do see like a glimpse of an alien homeworld, and the warning sirens are going off because the Galactus is approaching, but it's
Yeah,
not the traditional Galactus. It's all like the Marvel zombies coming just to wreak havoc and kill everybody. It's so good. It's so good, and it works so well if you know that classic Marvel universe. So like if you're already
Yeah,
aware of those kind of big story beats,
I love
you'll
that
get a
they
lot of
went
enjoyment out of it.
full on with the horror and the artwork. It's still superhero artwork, but it has like much darker tones and shading, so it really works as a proper horror comic. This fun page in the middle here, the close-ups are like the teeth and the bits of meat. They don't shy away from showing traditional zombie guts and stuff. In the first trade paperback, which I think was that hardcover, I read that at the library years ago, Kirkman writes an introduction to his own book. And he's like, even I couldn't believe Marvel would let me do this. I suggested, let's have this and eating guts and Hulk ripping off Silver Surfer's head. And I kind of half jokingly put all this stuff in there. And they just went, yes. Probably because Walking Dead was selling so well and, of course, was getting made into a TV show. And they were like, yeah, we want to get some of that, zombie stuff going on, even though normally there's no way in hell they would have like made this book.
Yeah, it's just so perfect. And then when they eventually do the Evil Dead Army of Darkness kind of tie-in, it works perfectly with that universe.
Yeah, that
as
was
well.
like the most unexpected thing.
Look at that art. Like, look at the alternate universe. Ash has his brain eaten by Howard the Duck. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah. It's strange because there's actually two Ashes in the Army of Darkness crossover, which is like a follow. It's like Marvel Zombies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about the sixth book they did, but Ash dies, and then it's like, oh, there's another one that happens. There's the Ash we know who comes from wherever his universe. He dies, but then they're like, by the way, there's another Ash in the regular Marvel universe. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, because he's just he was just regular Ash for that universe, because they do it's a nice little cliffhanger at the end of one of the issues where you think it actually is our main character Ash that's being killed by Howard the Duck, like as we see there in that panel, but it turns out it was just the Ash from that universe. But yeah, really cool crossover, and it works as
wacky crossover because Dynamite had the Army of Darkness license. They didn't have a license for Evil Dead. That's why their comics were called Army of Darkness. And I love the bit where he meets Dr. Doom.
So good. So good. That artwork's really nice too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's actually just it acts as a prequel to the main story, I believe. The Army of Darkness crossover.
It's kind of a side story / prequel, yeah.
Yeah, because we do get to see like the reason he's in Doctor Doom's castle is because he is actually seeking out the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, because he believes in this universe that is what's causing the zombie outbreak.
Yeah,
he does not realize until later on. That it's
good scene where Doom, who's a scientist as well as a like magic user, he's like, no, it's a science-based outer space thing. It's nothing to do with your Book of the Dead thing. He's like, you idiot. And then but Doom does actually have the Necronomicon we know from Evil Dead. And Ash does find it in the library, and even the book tells him the exact same thing. It's like, no, it's nothing to do with me. It's a science-based plague thing from space.
We also get a nice moment though where the Ash kind of uses the Necronomicon Book of the Dead to summon Deadites, like the Evil Dead version of zombies. So then they have a big kind of zombie war, between the Marvel zombies.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
good
Deadites.
fun. It doesn't last too long because you got regular human zombies versus superpowered zombies.
Imagine though, like just as a premise, like so say you're like a civilian in the Marvel universe of this where this is happening. Like how terrifying would it be to have like a zombified Wolverine coming to kill you? And what are you gonna do against that?
Nothing much.
Like,
He's been mind controlled by the Hand and all sorts of other things, and being an assassin, and now he's a zombie version of it as well.
We also learned that while you, for the most part, will retain your superpowers when you get infected, healing factor powers are not retained.
No,
Wolverine mentions it at one point that if he'd had his healing power, he would have been able to grow back his limbs, but it's not there anymore. He still obviously has his adamantium claws and hypersenses, but he doesn't have the healing factor.
One of the various sequels, we get to see zombie Wolverine versus regular Wolverine.
That's right. It's when like the new Avengers kind of come into the universe or whatever, and there's a showdown. But yeah, so guys like Wolverine and Sabretooth, unfortunately, they'll use their they'll lose their healing factors, and like I mentioned earlier with Eddie Brock of Venom, the symbiotes can't survive on hosts that are actually dead, so that
Yeah,
kind of
and
renders
even
them
Doctor
this.
Strange, Doctor Strange survives a little bit in astral form, but his body's stuffed. But he just survives on the other plane, but he can't really get back or do anything to help.
And I suppose it's not always mentioned because they die so quickly, but humans can become zombies too. Like they can become. The only thing is they're all being eaten and devoured, so there's not many
Yeah,
bodies left to actually change into zombies.
pretty much like the
But we do
vampire
see,
thing. If there's enough left of them, they'll come back. But if you eat too much of them, they're sort of gone and stuff. If you
but
kill
we
them
do
too
see
quick.
guys like even just in the background, we'll see guys like Prowler or Doctor Octopus. Like Doctor Octopus is he's a human zombie, but it's because he's got all his mechanical arms and stuff that he's able to keep up with the super powered super villain
Yeah.
zombies. Even like, obviously you got Tony Stark there. If it wasn't for his Iron Man armor, he would have just been devoured like any other human.
Yeah, well, later in the story, he loses his legs and everything, and it's just this torso
That's right.
flying around up the side
Yeah,
of the armor.
using the Galactus or Surfer, power cosmic to like levitate and
Yeah,
fly around the place.
there's such
Yeah, but
bizarre stories. The sequels
they're
are
all
fun too. They did Marvel Zombies 2, so they're kind of in order here across the top. And then 2, they kind of use the Galactus power to go to other planets, and they start raiding the whole solar system and get outside there. But eventually start running out of planets of people to eat. So then they go looking for like an interdimensional doorway, like the Reed Richards thing we mentioned earlier. And eventually they find something, but they realize it's all the way back on Earth in the Fantastic Four's headquarters. And that's when they go back there. They find out there's actually some hideaway humans there too. Like there's this other group with like the Kingpin who's become a zombie, and some other villains that still have this little camp where they're still going on. Marvel Zombies 3, we get Machine Man. It was called, X-51, which that was fun. And he goes through more alternate portals to other realities, whatever, and he's fighting zombies. Marvel Zombies 4, we get the Midnight Suns. You got like Damon Hellstrom, Morbius, Man-Thing, Man-Wolf. I forget the name of the lady character. And Marvel Zombies 5, it's Wild West, like the early Marvel comics where they used to have like westerns and that before they did all their, before superheroes became so big.
I never got as far as 4 and 5 when I was doing my own
5 was kind of boring. 4 I didn't
them.
mind. But there's some cool stuff in 4 where they bring in a voodoo character. Actually, they do 2 things. There's a voodoo character who's able to control human zombies, but it's like the traditional Haitian zombies, not undead ones. But that also brings back the character from the 50s who's literally called Zombie, who's Simon Garth, was the first ever Marvel zombie. And so they bring him into the story too. And he has the undead head of Deadpool with him, who he's carrying around with him.
Deadpool. But yeah, I just love seeing these panels lined up here. I was thinking about it as well. Even though Magneto rescues the ultimate version of Reed Richards in that story, and he himself is later killed, sacrificing himself to try and get Reed back to the other dimension, and then he destroys the
Magneto
interdimensional
dies
gateway.
like really, really early.
He's actually it's revealed, and I can't remember which volume or prequel story it's revealed in, but Magneto is actually partially responsible for the outbreak to begin with. I believe it was some type of experiment he was conducting on asteroid M that allowed the infected Sentry to cross over through the initial dimensional rift and infect, because Magneto assumed that, he's just going to wipe out all the humans and then us mutants can take over the world. Typical evil mutant, thinking by Magneto. But he has a change of heart, when he sees the complete destruction that's been kind of wrecked on the world. But it should be noted that a lot of the guys that we would probably know from the regular X universe, Magneto's acolytes who are like hanging out in Asteroid M, they're all in the story too, and they actually stay on Asteroid M and manage to build a life. Like later on, they will travel down to Earth. They will find Black Panther, who's managed to escape, and he's walking around with Wasp's severed head, you know, trying to dissuade her from eating people, and they're eventually taken on board
Yeah,
Asteroid M and kind of brought into the fold. We see that Forge
and that's the
is
beginning of
actually
the end of
alive
them.
and well up there. Oh yeah, oh yeah,
It's like rescue
um,
Black Panther. Don't take any zombie people up to
yeah.
your place where you've survived. It's a bad idea.
I'd even be dubious, like as one of the acolytes, I'd be dubious of rescuing Black Panther. They even say it because
Yeah.
when they see him first, they assume he is a zombie because he's walking
He's
around with like
missing so
literally
many
one leg.
parts.
I thought it was cool that we're seeing that Forge had survived
Yeah,
and managed to like get up there, and
make some replacement limbs.
yeah, and Asteroid M will end up becoming almost a new bastion for humanity in the story because, you know, Black Panther, he's going to end up like marrying one of the acolytes. They're going to have a baby together who's going to grow up to be like the next heir, you know. And then we, I think you kind of mentioned it briefly. We see they actually manage to return to Earth and slowly start repopulating the Earth before the galactized zombies return and find them,
Yeah,
and
because
then
all the
all sorts
regular
of hell
zombies
breaks
have
loose.
well, they don't know where they're gone. They don't really explain it too well, but they're basically at some point they're gone. It's like a couple of generations on. I think they've just rotted to pieces or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and that would make sense as well, because I do know that they literally wait years before they even send an expedition down to the planet to scan for life, just to check, which is understandable, like because you just don't want to take that risk. We also kind of learn throughout the course of this that the zombie illness or hunger, if you wait it out long enough, it will eventually subside. We learned that because with Wasp's beheaded head, at the start she's
You can't
craving
eat.
flesh
It's
and
just
trying to take a bite. Yeah, but eventually, I think once you just stop giving in to the desire to eat, you will eventually. It's like coming off crack or heroin or whatever.
yeah.
Eventually, you will get over it. As hard as it is, you will get over it eventually.
Yeah, they have that, and the same thing happens to Hawkeye. His head is like left for something like over 50 years in a hole, and he's gone completely mad because it's just his head again. And Forge builds them these like robot bodies for the Wasp and Hawkeye heads, but then they still, even though they kind of have their senses and they don't have the hunger, if even once, if they take a bite of someone, they're right back to where they were again.
Where I had kind of mainly finished up what had happened, I think in the final volume I had read was the son of one of the acolytes, the main dude whose name I can never remember.
I think it's like
He
Cortez or Fabian or one of them.
Yeah, it's Cortez's son, I think. He grows up and really resents the fact that his father didn't become ruler of who was
Yeah.
left of the survivors.
And they play him like the kind of upstart, like, oh, this guy's going to wreck everything. But when I'm reading the story, I'm like, this guy's right. The other idiots are trying to be like traditional heroes and values, and like, oh, we should be inclusive and include the zombies in the new world. It's like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
That's the end of
Not a
everything.
chance.
Don't do that. So
Yeah.
he was right
It's
to
like-
actually try and kill Black Panther and the other characters.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Because like once you have zombies within the vicinity of your living area, like you're at risk, like of the infection spreading. So he definitely was right in that respect. Even if he went away, he kind of went about things in a shady fashion because he like sends assassins to try and kill Black Panther, and they pretty much ends up happening at such a time where they end up fucking up the nice little paradise they've made for themselves because, you know, obviously the other zombies show up and then there's a big battle between factions once again. It's it all
How
gets
embarrassing
very
would it be
crazy.
that you assassinate someone called like Julius Caesar style, like, you know, literally stab someone in the back who was the leader, and then they become a zombie, and then they come back and be like, you bastard, you killed me, but he's still back as a zombie.
And you know, I'm just as popular as I was when I was alive, so I'm probably going to be leader again as well, you know. But yeah, it's I just love it, man. As a series, like what I read of it, and I know what you're saying about possibly 4 and 5 not being, you know, maybe as interesting. But to be honest with you, I was beginning to feel that even with number 3 with the Machine Man story. Like it was still good, but it felt at that point like they were really just stretching it out just to
Yeah,
try and
they're all
keep
side
getting more and
stories. Like
more out
1
of it.
and 2 tie directly together, and it's the same story and cast. Whereas 3, 4, and 5 are all basically side stories with their own little like units and groups and all that.
They still do. Hopefully someday. It probably won't happen anytime soon, but if we could get like an R-rated Disney animated,
That would be cool.
like
Yeah.
good adaptation, they could do the adaptation first of all of the Ultimate Fantastic Four story, and then they could see how that went if they wanted to launch
Yeah.
into to anything else. It's always I think though of all the zombie characters, and even though they kind of get split from the main crew pretty early on because of the story, the zombie Fantastic Four, and in particular the zombie Reed Richards, are probably the most evil and terrifying of the zombies that
Yeah,
you do encounter. Like the evil Reed Richards, like even that plan he had was so diabolical to kind of trick a younger version of himself to like coming there. Like it's just so sinister, you know. He's just willing to
yeah, and
do
they've played
whatever
that
it
up
takes.
too in the I was going to say the regular Ultimate Universe, but they did a second rebooted Ultimate Universe because it basically, in the old Ultimate Universe, the Galactic Swarm, rather than Galactus the Man, it was like kind of nanobot swarm comes and destroys the universe, which is apparently is what inspired the stupid Cloud version of that old crappy Fantastic Four movie. And then the rebooted Ultimate Universe, there's another version of Reed there who actually came over to the mainline Marvel U and stayed in the Venom comics. They call him something else. And there's this weird big like alien shaped head, as in like the Giga alien, like a helmet. It looks directly like the alien. And he's just like an unrepentant, evil, mad genius. He's not good like Reed at all. He's an evil bastard. So they kind of play up the Ultimate Reed as being evil again.
Also do there was like a follow-on in Ultimate Fantastic Four, literally not long after the initial story, where the Frightful Four, the zombie version of the Fantastic Four, they're obviously still imprisoned within the Baxter building in the Ultimate Universe, but they managed to break out. Invisible Woman more or less is able to create like a force shield that they're able to bust out of the Baxter building, and they almost end up reinfecting or I suppose infecting the planet because it's a new universe. But
Yeah.
they get stopped by Reed, who's been body swapped with Doctor Doom, and he's able to like, you know, kill them, destroy them, you know, take them out of commission essentially, which puts an end to their story. But while they're in it, like that Frightful Four, they're just all such like evil. There's no joking around with their versions of the zombies. They're all just like,
Yeah.
we must kill everybody and take over. Brilliant covers
Yeah,
here.
and the Army of Darkness one too, when they go to see Doom, Doom actually saves some of the last of humanity and it makes this big force field bubble and actually saves a lot of people that way until eventually the supers eat the whole earth and then they come back and bust this force field to try and eat more people.
Yeah, and Doom himself, I believe, becomes infected during that whole skirmish, because we
Yeah.
will see him later on running around in the background as a zombie in the other volume.
Yeah, his own arrogance brings him down yet again, where he was too overconfident. He's just like, oh yeah, don't worry about the zombie thing. I've got the force field. It'll be fine. Go to the Winchester and fight by tomorrow and have a drink. You know, let's sort of attitude.
Wait for all this to settle down, you know.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's the same with Magneto. His arrogance was his downfall as well, because when he destroys the portal and the other the zombies are coming to get him, he's all like, I'm the master of magnetism, I cannot be destroyed, and he's like chopping like Cap's head off with the shield, and he's taking it to them, like, and then all it takes is Wasp just coming up beside him and giving him a wee bite in the neck, and then that's him, like nasty. He gets got. Yeah.
Just sneaking up on him.
Cocky. But he was kicking ass right before he got brought
He was.
I actually do like the version of Magneto they give us, because it's interesting to see what would happen if that evil Brotherhood of Mutants version of Magneto all of a sudden just had to switch on a dime, which is exactly what happens in the zombie continuity. It's like all of a sudden he goes from, I'm going to enslave humanity, to I'm actually going to try and save what's left of humanity. Like, it's a really cool character turnaround.
Yeah.
And you do kind of feel bad when he gets got. Like, Hulk bites his leg off and stuff. Like, it's just really nasty death they end up giving him.
But yeah, they're great fun with it. There's serious consequences for lots of the characters. There's good little kind of morality plays and tales in it for stuff with, you know, Black Panther and the Asteroid M, and then what's the consequence of like in the original Walking Dead comic, the premise was because I did read the early Walking Dead. I've read 50, 100 issues. I don't know how long it ran for, but I read the first 50, 100, whatever. And I used to watch the show in the early days before it got really boring. But the whole idea of the original Walking Dead, which Kirkman did as well as writing the Marvel Zombies, was, as a fan of zombie films, we always see, well, the plague starts or whatever infection, and then the movie ends. And it's like, well, but then what next? Well, we get another zombie film, and then the same shit happens again. But it's like, but he wanted to know what would happen after that. What's the new world? What then happens after that as an ongoing story? And that became The Walking Dead, adjusting to that new world. And you see a similar thing in the Marvel Zombies. It basically is another version of Walking Dead, but with the Marvel characters.
With a, you know, probably less than zero chance you're going to survive if you're a normal human. Like, you know, because I'd much rather be a human survivor in the world of Walking Dead than in the world of Marvel Zombies. Like in Marvel Zombies, you're so fucked. You've got like zombie Wolverine there sniffing around, sniffing you out of your hiding place, and then, you know, eating you, devouring you. It would
Like
just
the Marvel universe would not be a good place to live. You've got like interdimensional incursions. You got Galactus. You got Kree Skrulls coming in trying to destroy the planet. You got bloody stuff coming up from under the earth with the Mole Man and monsters and lava monsters. Then you got things coming from other dimensions like Doctor Strange or Dormammu and all those weird creatures that always end up coming through and messing up New York. And then occasionally you'll get Godzilla or kaiju thing rampaging, and then you've got bloody zombie viruses on top of that.
Yeah, and it sucks as well for like the more street level Marvel heroes. Like I think in that Army of Darkness crossover, we get to see Punisher kind of on the streets. He's got like, obviously he's got loads of guns. He's like mowing down zombies, but he's only a man. Like he's just a normal man.
And I like that. Like when Ash meets him, he's like, he thinks like, oh, finally somebody thinks like me. I've got a gun and do this, and then he realizes he's a complete fucking psychopath.
Yeah, it's too bad Punisher didn't make it a bit further in the story. He would have been an awesome guy.
Well,
but like I said, it's same with like Nick Fury, all those guys. You're just fucked if you're a normal human if you don't have any special powers or armor.
But he did get one of the coolest comics back in the day. Remember, he got the Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe, which I think Garth Ennis actually wrote that one.
But yeah, like lots of heroes though will get their own unique time to shine throughout it. Like I suppose Spider-Man is probably one of the more notable ones because we get to see just how tragic it is with him killing Mary Jane and Aunt May. I like the way Captain America is Colonel America in this universe. And he's also a former president of the United States at one point. They mentioned it because they're looking for surviving humans, and like Daredevil or somebody turns around to Colonel America and he's like, there's probably like members of Congress still in bunkers and stuff like that. And he's like, Colonel America will know where to find them, because when he was president, he would have been given all the locations, these secret locations. Like, oh man. You know?
In one of the other sequels, they do one which would basically be Zombies 6 or 7, but it's just called Marvel Zombies again. And it's a semi-sequel to the early ones. It's the same Spider-Man, but he goes to a different universe that's not infected, but he's still a zombie. But he has his intelligence, and he's not eating people on purpose, but he's gotten really rotten, and he gets so traumatized. You know, he doesn't take the mask off because he still remembers eating Mary Jane, and it's been years and years and years. And he takes his mask off, and he gets so traumatized looking at his own face, he literally rips his own face off.
Poor Peter, you know, he just couldn't hack it. He just couldn't hack doing all these bad deeds, even though it wasn't really his fault. You know, he just.
But, other zombies start turning up, like the zombie Wolverine turns up, and he actually in Japan, and he tries to save that world, and he tries to find a cure, and he goes back to being a scientist and trying to work on stuff to help, but he ends up not being able to help. It doesn't go well.
He could possibly be, I don't know, there's something about zombie Wolverine. I think he's, apart from maybe Reed Richards, he could be the scariest of them all, just because he's so you know, he's not always the nicest guy anyway, even when he is a hero. So when he's like a zombie, he's just like a scary bastard, essentially. Like he's just
Yeah.
a nasty piece of work. And like, now I don't know whether it was a rights issue or whether it was just because they really wanted to keep it, you know, canon with the What If TV show or whatever.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that really let down the Marvel Zombies animated series that was recently on Disney was the fact that fuck all of these, like the picture we're looking at now, like you're like there is no Wolverine zombie, or like there's no
Who's actually in
lots
it?
of the
Because I haven't
characters.
got around to watching.
Hulk is in it. There is a brief, like we see Captain America briefly in it. Thor is there. It's just not the same awesome superhero lineup. And also
Yeah.
just the story, it's kind of set years after the outbreak that happened in the first What If episode with the zombies. I just think they maybe were a bit too heavy on trying to connect it with that show rather than make it just a decent adaptation. And I think that's maybe what let the show down, because it's just, you know, it's kind of it's a follow-up to something that not a lot of people would have seen, and probably that not a lot of people care that much about. Whereas if they'd kept the kind of A1 lineup of like main cast superheroes and just maybe retold the story again, it probably would have been a lot more
Yeah, if they
effective.
kept them more like New Avengers style, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Cap, Hulk, I mean, who's going to complain about that?
Exactly. But no, I've been enjoying like rereading them this week. I got back up as far as volume 2. I'll probably just polish off volume 3 tonight. And if I see them cheap, I would pick up volume 4 and 5.
Yeah,
just
they
to
have done a
finish
big
it off.
omnibus of lots of the various series, but it's in Australian prices. It's very expensive. If it was half price, I get it, but really, I just want the first 2 in trade. But it's been out of print for quite a while.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of been slowly happening since COVID, but definitely in the post-COVID world, we've crossed into that time where it's getting harder and harder to get this out of print stuff, and there doesn't seem to be
unless they
new
reprint
prints coming
stuff,
up on
it
the
gets
horizon.
very expensive to get. Even trades you could used to get all day on eBay or the comic shop online for retail. Like I'd look up like old Dark Horse Predator trades and stuff, and they're like 3 times, 5 times the stuff that never went up in price before. That was always normal retail price, just skyrocketed just because it's out of print for like 10 years, which is nothing in comic terms.
Yeah, it's that scarcity mindset as well. It just drives the prices up, because you will often find somebody who they're desperate to complete the collection, or they need whatever, and they will pay the high price. And once one person pays that high price,
it just fucks it.
we all pay.
And it's a shrinking market. Less and less people are reading any physical editions of comics, so any stuff that's out of print older just gets more pricey.
But then you just have to hopefully pray that Marvel will do like an epic collection release of it. Maybe if you're lucky, you might get it at an affordable price. But even new trades these days, they're not cheap. Like even when something comes out new, it's not always,
some reasonable deals on. They did Marvel Omnibus of the Thing series from the 80s, which ran for 20 or 30 issues. Then they had Marvel 2-in-1, which is like the Thing team up basically. And then they did Spider-Man Marvel team up. So those are the 3 I picked up. But I picked them up over a year and a half. I don't normally buy omnibuses, but they had them for a good price. I ordered them when they came up on Amazon. And there was stuff I really, really wanted, like more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to take a patient approach to these things. Like if you can resist the urge, if it's not something you feel that you like need to read immediately. Yeah. What I always say to people is, look, save your searches of all the stuff you're looking for, and then just keep an eye on the prices, because you never know. Like at some point, somebody somewhere could be looking to get rid of something in a hurry, and you might just be able to swoop in and get it at a good price. But you kind of have to play the long game.
I was on eBay
achieve
just
that.
last month. Like I mostly look at toys and crap on there, but occasionally I'll look up comics, but not much good deals. But I got this last month, Danger Girl. It's a collection of some of the earlier stories, but this one says, so this was printed in 2002, and I got that for $30, which is pretty much what you would have paid for it back then. So I got that for a good deal. And I grabbed a few months back. I grabbed the Godzilla Marvel Omnibus
very nice.
off Amazon. They had this for quite a fair price. That's about 20 issues or so, or whatever the hell is in there.
I love those big, thick omnibus editions.
Yeah. But so good deals can be had, but yeah, it's got to be patient and timing and look what's coming out.
Well, speaking of what's coming out, I believe you
Yeah.
may have some teaser images for us of what's coming up on the
Right.
show.
So we don't have anything set exactly for next week yet, but we've got a bunch of topics, and a bunch of things coming along in the pipeline. So sneak peek of other upcoming topics. There'll be in no particular order whenever we get to them. We've got best Die Hard clones. So this is like 90s specific ones that followed kind of like a Die Hard and Die Hard on a boat, or Die Hard on a plane, or Die Hard in a building. That was a novel one that eventually they came back around to that again. And Dredd versus Dredd. This is one of Mark's ones. The old Carl Urban Dredd, who's now in Mortal Kombat, who's Johnny Cage,
Yes.
and the Stallone Dredd.
A tale of two dreads.
Yeah, I saw the Carl Urban one. I saw that at the cinema. That was a great experience. That soundtrack just kicked ass. Favorite Ninja Turtles vintage figures, as in like ones that we own, as opposed. So nothing on the list will be stuff we don't have or haven't seen, because like how can it be my favorite if I've never seen it or held it or played with it? Doesn't count. Trading cards, like kind of like 80s and like childhood trading cards and stuff. It's another one to get to eventually. Batman versus Predator, as in like the Dark Horse DC first miniseries from the 90s, particularly the trade edition. That was awesome. Greatest movie monsters. Be cool to do like a kind of greatest hits of movie monsters, just kind of like highlights of, just cool films and just an excuse to talk about monsters. And Vader, big boy, wrestler.
Great picture there as well. I love that.
Yeah,
image
I
of
pinched
the
that from
head
the Marvel comic of WCW Marvel comic. There's like 12 issues.
which I'd love to pick up at someday as well. Yeah, Vader. Luke Skywalker's father, Vader.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny if you go searching for Vader figures on eBay, like you're gonna find a different Vader.
Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be, yeah, lots of interesting topics on the horizon on our Boba Joe show. And I'd also like to take a moment to say thank you to Jesse for filling in for me last week.
Badger.
Great show. I really enjoyed watching that show back and listening to all the memories of the games and the consoles the games were played on. Great stuff, great times. I would definitely urge anybody who hasn't seen it to roll on back and watch the replay. I'd also be curious, just in relation to this week's topic, if any of you folks out there have read any Marvel Zombies. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Did you watch the Disney series? Did you think it was any good?
Any random
Definitely let
figures?
us know your any zombie or Marvel zombie related thoughts. Drop them in the comments. Let us know what you think.
Or did you know that Marvel Zombies was a phrase from the 70s before those comic books?
Yeah, you can learn all sorts of stuff watching this show.
It was like it was used to be a term to describe like hardcore Marvel fans in the 70s.
Well, I wasn't around in the 70s, but
Yeah.
you could count me as a Marvel zombie in some ways, I suppose.
I'm pretty sure that's where Kirkman actually got it from. Like, I think he might have mentioned it in like the introduction of one of the books or something.
That's pretty cool, if that is the case. But yeah, great times, great show, and hope everybody who's watching had some nice brains for breakfast and you're able to feast on flesh later on.
Have your
for your
Kellogg's
dinner.
Bleedies or your brain waves.
Brains. We'll have to do Return of the
you know what
Living Dead
vegetarian
someday on the
zombies
show.
eat?
What?
Grains.
Yeah. Vegan friendly brains.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll catch you guys on next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know who's your favorite Marvel zombie. We'll see you guys next time.
Take care, folks.